tiny little mic, so I went.
Mate, it's the best way sometimes.
Yeah.
You know? Podcasts are more about. I've seen podcasts where they spend thousands, like Diary CEO, but Stephen Bartlett, he spends millions.
Yeah.
And they're good.
Yeah, they are.
But sometimes
You
it's
still
more about
listen
the
to the same
concept.
thing, whether you talked on your phone or not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So you're playing golf tomorrow at the Belfry.
It's not the Belfry. It's down at it's near Oxford, Doddington.
Okay.
Somewhere down there. I don't know, but we're going down there for prostate cancer.
Good man. You're a good golfer.
I am in my heyday. In my like last year, I was all over it. And I was about a 12.
Oh, good.
Handicap.
Decent. Yeah.
I'm 18 now, so I fluctuate between going all in on golf and then going all in on jiu-jitsu. So whichever's floating my boat, and because I've got massively back into jiu-jitsu, obviously golf takes the hit. So it's all like I'm trying to find that nice fine balance where I just get out do a 9-hole a week, and it's there. But the last 6 months have been turbo fucking busy, and I've gone right. And I'm training for a 100-miler, so the 100-miler has almost taken away the training for it, my ability to do golf and jiu-jitsu and work and be a dad and be a husband and fucking do everything else.
Yeah, it's a hard balance. BJJ could take up a lot of time. It's painful as well.
It's painful. I love it.
I love it too, but it was quite gutting when I realised my body was really struggling to cope with it. So like my weights, oh man, I love the gym.
Yeah.
But that performance went right down. I was always injured, always.
Back.
Elbows, shoulders, lower back, groins.
Groins, interesting.
Yeah. In fact, it was so bad I had to go and have a scan down there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was really painful. Pain was going right into my bollocks.
What did they say?
It was fine. It was pulled. It was.
Takes forever to heal. How old are you?
38.
Yeah.
Started too late, man.
How long have you been doing it?
I started about a year ago.
Okay.
But I'm seriously. I haven't been for 10 weeks just to let my body heal.
Yeah, I kind of get to that point where I go and I'm like, right now, my neck, my shoulders and my traps are just constantly killing, because we did an open mat on Friday, trained Saturday, open mat Monday. We did a roll yesterday, a training session yesterday, like my neck gets to that point where you kind of get used to it.
Yeah, I get that, yeah.
It's kind of like, I'll just accept that. And obviously trying to get the runs in for a 100-miler, it's just constant exhaustion.
Yeah,
but I like that.
So do I. It's quite playful as well. I like playing. It's really cool. But like I say, you can't do everything, so you start to look at prioritizing things. Yeah. So I'm into various topics. I love reading, writing. The business takes up a lot of time. If you want to grow a business,
100%, man.
It needs some hours, doesn't it?
Well,
you understand.
Yeah. It started for me a long time ago, and.
Yeah, I'm interested to know more.
Okay.
The man coach. So yeah, I mean, we both do similar things, I guess. So let's start here, man.
All right. So the business journey started in 2013. So I left the military in 2011, September 2011, and I come home and I got a job as a college lecturer in my local college, and I was there for about I must have been about there for just over 2.5 years. And I knew on the first day, it wasn't for me. I fucking hate those kids. They're horrible 16 to 19-year-old. They don't realise, all they want to do is party, and fuck, and drink, and, and I'm, trying to teach them, I got bags of life experience going to Afghan, And I think the biggest thing for me was they didn't give a fuck what you done, right? Do you know what I mean? You've been out serving your country and all of that. And a couple of lads did. I trained a couple of lads to go off and become Royal Marines. It was just unfulfilling, and and I was doing a side hustle at the time. I took a huge pay cut. I was a sergeant when I left, and the pay cut was about £18,000 a year, which is a lot of fucking money.
Sure.
And we were under financial pressure right away. And I come back and I struggle with PTSD. I didn't realise that at the time, but I was going through the trauma of the transition. Fast forward 18 months, I was divorced, on the brink of killing myself. Just lost everything. I didn't know how to handle the real world. But I always had this side hustle that gave me some energy, gave me some happiness, gave me some focus, right? And it was my boot camp, my local boot camp. And I was trying to make a little extra cash just to subsidise the 18 grand that we lost. Mm-hmm. And then I just was like, do you know what? I went through this. The college tried to ditch me. They tried to get me fired because I was using some of their grounds, which I asked permission to use. Anyway, it's politics bullshit, senior management, corporate bullshit. But they tried to fuck me over, and they didn't have a leg to stand on. So my union said, "Do you want to stay? Is this going to be unworkable for you?" And it was untenable. The relationship had broken down, and they gave me a payout, and I looked at that. I went, "This is my loophole. This is my way out." And I went all in on my side hustle. I knew nothing about business. Like I'm telling you, I did. When somebody said to me, like, "Do you know what, have you got your P&L sorted out?" And I was like, "I don't even know what you're talking about. What's a P&L?" So I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew how to work hard from my military background, and I knew how to put the work in. So I did, and I put 18 hours in it. You know, I'm not shitting you. The way that I did it, I was just like, "Do you want to come and train with me?" I'm a former Royal Marine. I'm not going to charge you anything for the first session. And then I was charging like £15 an hour. And I was desperate for cash because I was going to lose my house otherwise, right? I had 2 kids who I saw half the week when I was in shared custody. I was on the old Tesco value baked beans, you know, fucking bread, minimum cost. I only put the heating on when the kids come around in the winter. I couldn't even afford to buy myself I think we had a 7-tog duvet, and in the winter it was freezing. I was fucking free. I couldn't even afford it. Anyway, I built this business, and in a year, I followed a couple of people on social media. They were into business, fitness marketing. I learned on YouTube. YouTube was all the way back then, nothing like what it is now. But I looked for every video, looked how to market, I put the work in. And in the first year, we went from like a business that was £6,500 a year to like 106. But I paid the price. Like, you know, I was on the floor in terms of like my mental health, my structure, etc. And then that just evolved, and that really took off. Like, we had 400 members, built this business, right? So I was learning about business. I was learning about people. I was learning about networking.
So that was all the boot camp?
It was all the boot camp.
Wow. Yeah.
I then got to a point, and I think it must have been when I met a beautiful woman. She's my wife now, and we've had 2 kids since. But when we had the first one, Alba, it would have been 2017. I realised that something had to change, and it was about when I wrote my first book, "It's a State of Mind," and I was trying to transition or do some work online. And again, it's a whole learning curve, as I'm sure you know, which is fucking just like, you think you've nailed it, and then you go online, you're like, you're just a tiny little fish in the ocean, right?
Still learning now, bro.
Still learning. You never stop learning. I don't believe you ever stop learning. So then I started an online company, and it was called James Boardman Fitness and Lifestyle. And then what I did was I worked with men who wanted to lose body fat, get fit, basically the boot camp stuff, right? And that was cool. And then we evolved to the dad coach. I don't know if you ever knew, like me.
I think I did. I think that's when I first. Yeah, that was
it.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, what year were we talking with the dad coach?
So that dad coach evolved at the end of 2017.
Yeah, I think maybe that's when I first caught onto you.
Yeah,
it's been a while actually. You've had a presence out there for a while now.
Yeah, it's definitely. It's only really grown in the last 2 years, but I've been there. But I think this is where consistency pays off, right?
Of course, man. Yeah.
I mean, I've done a piece of content every day since 2017.
Have you?
Every day, without fail.
Yeah.
And that evolved, and that was great. And then we evolved to the man coach, because I think people got confused by the name, and I think people thought I was trying to teach them how to be dads.
Okay.
So there was a real dilemma there. And recently, we're not actually the man coach anymore. So we evolved, and we evolved again, and this is the last evolved. And I actually went, right, it's James Boardman brand. It comes under the brand of James Boardman. And what I was finding with the man coach was that I was very limited about the audience that I could reach out to. Now, there are lots of different people that want to work with me in lots of different avenues. And I think when you come under the roof of the man coach, it kind of limits what people think you are or what you're about. And we have big plans over the next 10 years. And I can't do that under the man coach brand.
Okay.
We're still going to help men. We're still going to do all the same stuff, but we're going to do some other cool stuff as well.
Okay. So you're going to help people now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so I have had women on my case. It sounds good, that women on my case for the last 4 years. Why don't you do anything for women? Like, I need this. I need this straight shooting. I need this accountability.
Yeah, I get the same. People ask me, what, you know, are you going to do a better woman?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, right? And it has never been the right time, because my focus has always been upon men. Like, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to build an empire and movement of men who wanted to change. And the reason the man coach stuff come about was because when I was talking to you about the body transformation stuff with men online, what I was seeing was that there were lots of overweight men who desperately wanted to look better. But when you do a transformation program, like a body transformation program, it really is only a very small, quick fix. You know, we're only solving a minor problem. And also alongside that, there was a lot of people who just weren't showing up. And I was like, why aren't people showing up? Like, look at these results, look at what can... And I realized that there were so many other components to why those men were not showing up and they weren't the person that they wanted to be. Structure, routine, distraction, mental health, overthinking, you know, all the stuff I talk about in all my videos today. And actually, I thought to myself, if we solved all of those problems, if we could become the leader of ourselves, which is kind of like not the message I had back then, but like today, when I understand it better, if we can solve the root cause of the problem of why lads are overweight, like, it's not a case of like, we're going to get you fit over 6 weeks. It's a case, we're going to change and rewire your mindset so that you never have to look in the mirror and feel ashamed again. So that you're well structured, you're in control, you understand your emotions and you can handle them better, you can make better decisions, you've got more balance. All the stuff that, you know, your audience, my audience, any man will know if they're honest, if they dropped the ego and became vulnerable to the reflection in the mirror. We all go through that, all the things that stop us doing the things that we want to do, right? And that's how we just naturally evolved from Body Shop Fitness to James Boardman Fitness and Lifestyle to dad coach to man coach to where we are today. Yeah,
well, I think that's credit to probably your evolution as well. I think as we evolve individually, like so do our ideas, our thoughts, and ultimately our businesses. So yeah, I mean, I heard something the other day that was talking about obese guys don't eat because they're hungry. So the question then became, well, why do they eat? You know, what are they eating? Because they're not eating for hunger. So why do they eat? Yeah. And that can tap into some difficult things for guys to look at. You know, when you take that away from them, well, you're not eating because you're hungry, and you say, why are you eating? Yeah. Ooh, tin of worms like open. Yeah. But you got to go there, haven't you? You've got to look at this stuff, man.
I am the biggest believer. Listen, if you are not willing to confront the man in the mirror, I mean the real man in the mirror, and you confront the raw version of who you are, you will never change, ever. Like, I've been doing this a long time, had over 11,000 lads come through our front door. You will never change unless you accept yourself for who you are today. It doesn't matter, by the way. Like, it doesn't matter if you've fucked up a relationship, if you've disconnected from your kids, if your career, like, because it can change. And I think a lot of lads just beat themselves into the ground because of the man that they've allowed themselves to become. It obviously matters what we do next.
Yeah.
Okay. So we kind of have to have a self-acceptance, and lads won't have a self-acceptance because it means confronting hardship. And when you confront hardship, boy, it's horrible. It's gut-wrenching. But that's the time to be vulnerable. That's the time to cry. That's the time to open up. That's the time to express yourself. That's the time to drop your fucking ego and kind of go, I fucked up. And that's what I did. You know, it was my fault that my first marriage failed. I was a selfish prick. I pushed everybody away. I made the wrong decisions. And I take full responsibility for that. And for a few years I didn't and blamed everybody else. But it got me nowhere other than bitterness and jealousy. And I'd become, just a shithead.
How old were you when you had this epiphany of I need to change?
When I come out of the military, so I'll just take you back to 2012, just over a year after coming out of the military. I sat on my edge of my bed, and my then wife had moved out with the kids and stuff. And I had planned to take my own life that night, and I had all of these tablets, super powerful tablets that my mum used for painkillers, and she kind of just left them behind. She didn't know obviously what I was going through. I got a big bottle of Jack Daniels, and I was just like, do you know what? I'm just fucking done with this. I'm tired, man. I'm really fucking tired, and I don't mean like sleepy tired. I mean just my fucking soul is drained. Yeah. And I was like, I just want to go to sleep, and I don't want to wake up. And I kind of got to that point and was like psyching myself up. I was crying. It was quite a dark scene because I remember my old house, and it was very cold because it was November, and I didn't have the heating on, and I was topless, and our light didn't have a lampshade. So if you can imagine and take a picture of that, it's a very dark scene. And what you're seeing, what you would have seen if someone took a picture of it, just on the back, on top of these drawers, was a picture of my two little ones. Obviously, my two new additions weren't around at the time, but they were like 5 and 7. And I was kind of looking at them, and I was thinking to myself, I left the job I loved the most, like Royal Marine Commando. I worked fucking hard to get to where I was. I was a physical training instructor. I was then an AT instructor. I had a great life, really great life, and I left it all behind. It's like leaving the person you loved the most because you know there's something you have to go and do. And when I left, I was in tears. I was going through trauma. I didn't know who I was. I had no purpose. And I kept on saying to myself, I left to be with those two. Those two are the reason that I left the military. And look at the fucking state of you now. This is when I started looking at myself. In that moment, I looked at a picture of them. And it's almost like I couldn't confront the picture because I couldn't face who I'd become. Mm-hmm. It was really difficult. I never even used to be able to tell the story without like breaking down. And it today still gives me goosebumps, and I'm like goosebumps, and I'm just like looking at this picture going, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, and my dad died when I was 6, like of a heart attack. And he was very stressed and overwhelmed. He had a very bad diet. He didn't look after himself. So I grew up without a father, and I was about to go and do the same. And I think about it even today in my morning routine. I'm always thinking, God, my kids would have grown up for the last 11 years without a father. Like all the stuff that I've guided my son to, my daughter to, brought 2 new kids in the world, probably done a lot for a lot of guys in terms of, and in that moment, I had to get out of the house, and that's what I did. I was like, fucking get away from this. And it was just, I am quite spiritual, and I always feel like sometimes my dad was there in that presence, in that moment, whether you believe in that stuff or not, but there was just a greater presence to get me out of that state of mind, to get out. So I went out, and I was like, half an hour, I'm just going to go for a walk. And I was out for 3.5 hours, and I just went for this walk, and I ran, I cried, I laughed, I reflected. And I looked at the future, and I just had this whole 3 hours experience, right? And I hadn't been training. Everything had stopped, right? I was a physical trainer in Royal Marine, so I was I was really seriously fit, and that had all gone. I was a little bit like overweight, and I come back, and I almost forgot everything that was laid out. I could almost forgot the scenario, and I was like, oh my God. That was the moment that sparked something had to change. And I always feel like it's the same for a lot of lads. You always have to get to the cliff edge before you realise you need to change. So something drastic has to happen, like you nearly kill yourself, or your wife leaves you, or your kid says, I don't want to call you dad, or you get made redundant and you realise you've spent all of your time in that career and neglected everyone else. For lads, and in my experience of working with lads, they leave it to the very last minute. And I really knew that I had something wrong with me in the first 5 months of leaving the military, and I should have sought help. But my ego prevented me. I'm a Royal Marine Commando. There's nothing fucking wrong with me. I can handle it myself. Do you know what I mean? Yep. And then it slowly, marginally got worse, 1% worse, over, to the point where I felt like I didn't want to be there anymore. And it was that point when I come back and I went, right, let's get training. And that was it. And the rest is history. Yeah,
I've heard stories, man. Training does save lives. It really does. It's the pathway to a stronger mind, stronger body. But it's interesting you say that. I've had many discussions on the podcast with people about like, how do we get men who aren't in those dire situations to change? No one's got the answer for this. It seems like the only way is to hit a point where, like you say, it's so bad.
Yeah.
The problem with that is if you live life that's not terrible but not good either, you can get to the end and go, oh, fuck. I wish I'd have had a shock. Yeah. I wish something bad had happened to me because the blessings that would have come from that. So I look at my breakdown too, and I'm like, there is gold from that.
Yeah.
I do the better, man, because of those fucking times where I was like, life is shit.
Yeah.
So, but it's difficult to explain to a guy who's just like in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe they're the guys who don't show up. I don't know what you think, but they don't seem to have that desperate need to move away from discontent and fear.
I agree. There's always, for you and me, like we've both gone through something. I think I think a large percentage of men have gone through something that,
of course,
I think something different. It's different to everybody, and like what you say, it is gold. And if someone ever said to me, "Would you change it?" and I was like, "Never," because I'm the man I am today because of all of that.
Yeah.
And that defined my new character.
Sure.
It defined my identity. So like leaving the military, I lacked identity, but going through that, rebuilding myself, rebuilding the life that we've got today, is all created identity. And with the question that you ask about those lads that are in the middle, that's why I show up every single day. Like every single day, I'm like, I'm going to do a piece of content. And I see lads going, oh, this resonates, or I need this, or this is this. But it's not enough to push them. And sometimes when I look at lads, so we've just finished a launch of a program, right? So when I think about programs, I don't think of it like I used to in terms of like I want to take through some of the, it's an educational process, right? It's like going back to college or university, but learning how to manage yourself. And that's how I see it, but with accountability. But to get somebody into that bubble, you've got the top 3 people out of 10 people. The top 3 people will say, yeah, I'm in. And those 3 will say, yeah, I'm in, either because they've been following me for 2 years and gone, I've wasted 2 years going around in circles, now I'm ready. There will be about 5 people that are thinking about it, and they're kind of thinking, why do I need this? But like, and then they convince themselves why they're not. I've just had a recent guy going, can I still do this and still commit to my girlfriend? Can I still do this and show up for my job? And of course you can, because that's the way it's designed, right? But then the overthinking part of a man's brain is that, nah, fuck it, I'll get round to it. How many times do we see the laundry in a corner going, I'll get round to that? My fucking suitcase is still full up from 2 weeks ago from Portugal. Do you know what I mean?
Mate, when anyone says I need to go away and think about it, I'm just like, you're probably going to go and talk yourself out of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Sometimes you just need to go, boom, I'm in.
Yep.
Here's the numbers on my card, I'm in, and there we go.
And I'll give you another example. Is the podcast, right? I think in my head, right, it's a 3.5 hour drive. In my head, I'm always like, fuck. And for me, I'm time, like everything's about time for me.
Yeah.
And I went, do you know what? Just fuck off. Let's do it. I want to do it. Like, I really want to do it. Like, if you were around a corner, I would just be like, let's go. Yeah. So it's a case of like, I have to change the story that I tell myself.
Sure.
And I'm going through a new evolution in terms of my own progress, where we stay, instead of saying no to everything, I would say, yes, fuck it. Like, my gut was like, go. I love the setup. I love what you're doing.
Cool.
And I was like, let's do it. So let's start thinking why we must rather than why we can't. And it's the story that we tell ourselves, right? So if we procrastinate about everything in life, then we procrastinate about other stuff. So how you do anything is very much about how you do everything. So it becomes habitual in your mind.
Yeah.
It's like nothing, you can't be really good at this and then maybe like you're not showing up here. It usually reflects right across the board, right? So
I think so. I think what we teach will be transferable skills.
100%.
So, you know, and this is why I love physical fitness, because there are so many lessons in there that you can apply to other areas of your life. Like if you can get in really good shape, you know, you're disciplined, you know, you're consistent, you know, you're hardworking, you know, you show up, all those things. I'm like, well, you know, that other area in your life that you're showing at, like those qualities that you've shown to get in good shape, boom, transfer those over here, your life will be better. 100%. But I'm really glad you said there's a couple of reasons. One, I haven't, you know, we've never spoke, so I was interested to find out more about you. And then there's some commonalities in we both work with men, we both help men. So kind of like I don't know like the average age of the guy that you work with, but for me, like 30s, 40s, 50s is where probably around the 40 mark. And I think going back to that kind of like topic of like, when do you change? I think at 40, you start to reflect more on your life. I think when you realize it's now not going to go on forever, because when you're 20, you don't fucking think that you're going to die, you know?
Yeah.
But I think 40 gives you enough time to have lived a life. Like you've fucked up enough, I'd say, by the time you're 40 to create enough pain and enough experiences to either know that you want life to be better or different.
Yeah, I agree. I think also at the 40 mark, I think a lot of men are asking the question, now what?
Yeah.
So you kind of get to the 40 mark and maybe you've got a 10-year-old, maybe a 7-year-old, maybe a fucking 20-year-old.
Yeah.
If you're a dirty dog.
Well, I think that's what the 50-year-olds are into self-development too, because like you said, the kids have almost kind of like the fun the nest then. So they're like, okay, daddy duties are not done, but like they're not dependent on me anymore.
That's what I mean. Yeah, like my daughter's 18. Do I see her an awful lot now? Not really. Are we very close? 100%. So like my role is very it's not as full on as my 6-year-old or my 2-year-old
Sure.
where I'm fully involved,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think we always ask the question as a man, as a 40-year-old, now what, where am I going? And obviously this fucking chat of the midlife crisis. I think it's just a crossroads of identity, because in our 20s, like most men are out fucking enjoying themselves, bell ends, Ibiza, fucking chasing chicks, going to gym, ego.
Good old days, man.
The best part of your life.
Yeah.
And then you kind of hit your 30s, and then you usually meet the girl you're going to marry around 28, 29, 30. You then have kids, you then have a mortgage. You're then in this job that maybe you didn't expect was going to be your full-time job, right? But
Yeah.
now you've got the responsibilities of paying for a marriage, supporting a family, paying the bills, trying to get on your holiday. And then as you're going through your 30s, you're questioning, who am I? I've done nothing for myself. What's next in my life? And then what you end up doing is going into this closed bubble where you stop talking and you stop communicating and you start overthinking, and then you start looking at other people on social media, and then you go like, how are they living that life? How are they doing that? How have they afforded that car? And I think you just question and challenge yourself. And I think 40 is that crossroads, or that bridge, the gap between 30s and 40s is like, we're trying to find a bridge where we can find identity again and reconnect with the marriage. Because if you've been married for 10 years by then, if you haven't been communicating and you haven't been supporting and you've been focused on your work and you've been stressed out, there's disconnect. So again, people want, like, what the biggest thing is, like, I need to be the man that my wife needs me to be. Like, you know, I need to be supportive. I need to put my fucking phone down and stop looking on TikTok, or stop looking for the answer on social media, you know. And I think we really do, men at that age really do challenge, and it does, sometimes it comes earlier. And like you say, as you push the late 40s and 50s, it's then more about, man, I'm fucking 50. Like when I talk about people when I talk to people who are in and around getting close to the 50 mark, they're scared.
Yeah, I get that.
Really fucking scared. And they're like, man, I'm halfway through. Like, this is when all the fucking diseases apparently start fucking creeping up. This is when, like, I realise I've still got 15 years worth of a career left, and I fucking hate my job. Like,
well, here's that fear we're talking about creeping
100%.
in. I'm wondering whether it just creeps up to a more intense level. But there's a difference, isn't there, between like just, oh, why is my life so shit, and then genuinely asking that question, but in a non-self-hate way.
Yeah.
Because you can go, why is my life so shit, victim, or you can go, okay, let's have a look. Why does my life feel so
100%.
disappointing?
100%.
And you can actually go to work on that and go, well, yeah, my relationship isn't great. The work that I do brings me no value or purpose.
Yeah.
And then it's about what am I going to do about it. And I'm just wondering what will separate the guys from, the ones that move. Apart from pain, if there's anything else out there, apart from absolute struggle and pain that can push a guy towards, actually, my life could be better.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm going to do to go and attack it.
It's the pursuit of contentment, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think contentment, I've always looked at the word and I was going, there's always happiness, or I want to be happy. We can't always fucking be happy. And then there's positive, and we can't always be fucking positive. But I think the magic word, or the magic balance, is contentment, and it's getting a fine balance with being content. And as you go on to your 40s or your 50s, you might have been in that career for 20 years. You might just want fucking something different. You might just want a fresh challenge. Like, I think men want a fucking fresh challenge. I get that. And we talked about the evolution of Body Shop Fitness, James Boardman, dad coach, man coach, James Boardman, you know, when we start looking at helping with women, business owners, corporate companies, like, it keeps it fresh. Like, I do that because I'm in complete control of what I would do with my time, where I go, right? If I was happy and content, I would just stay as the man coach and just go, do you know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing about contentment. I've never decided whether, you know, it's something that I would want or not.
Yeah.
Because like you say, it's you need some contentment.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's acceptance. I'm not sure what the difference is between the two.
Yeah.
But like you say, if you were totally happy, totally satisfied, totally content, boom, you kind of, that's where you've stopped growing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no guy I know that wants to stop growing.
Yeah, 100%.
You stop learning, you stop experiencing new things. It's like that's the day you die, man.
Do you know, I think there's a real skill to understanding that you want to grow and growing, and then finding that fine line where you just embrace everything you've learned. So I actually believe it's quite good to plateau at some points, because in my experience of working with lads, consistently growing is fucking exhausting. Like, consistently growing is exhausting. For me, maintenance is actually harder than growth, because you get yourself to a point, you get yourself to a standard, you get yourself to non-negotiables and routines and structure. but holding on to that for a year, if you can do that for a year, you fucking won. But
that's growth, man, isn't it?
But I was just going to say, but that in respect, that's still growth.
Yeah.
But it's maintaining everything you've learned.
Yeah.
But if you then get to a point where you've grown so much, let's say over 4 months, like our programs combined is a 4 to 6 months. If you do that and you don't embrace and embed everything and make it a rewiring, then you're trying to achieve the Mount Everest again, and you want to go again, and you haven't recovered from that first trek up. It becomes mentally, emotionally, and tormenting for a lot of lads. And that's one thing I really recognised in the last 3 years, is that when lads have finished our 2 programs, they need a 3-month embedding maintenance spell where they just make sure that everything they've learned is embedded. But like you say, that is, in theory, growth, because they're sustaining it. Sustaining anything for a bloke is fucking nails, because there's too many distractions, there's too many voices, there's too much self-judgment or fear of judgment. Yeah. And it's very difficult. It's fucking hard.
I know it is. Well, I've got a massive project myself at the minute about managing distractions. It's probably the most difficult challenge I've ever had. You know, because I can, I've removed a lot of the external distractions, but then there's the internal distractions. You know, that voice in your head, the thing that when you find something difficult, you'll find something else to do. You'll go and make a cup of tea, you'll go for a piss, you'll do anything but the thing you need to do just because it's difficult. And I kind of like didn't understand how, I don't want to say addicted because I think that's the wrong word, but I was like, my life is full of unnecessary distractions. Yeah. You know, concentrating nowadays is an absolute skill.
What is the project?
For me, well, the book that I'm reading is called Indistractable. So I'd love to be the kind of guy that if I decide to pick up my phone, it's because I decide, not because I'm distracted or tired or lonely or bored. Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. And I've caught myself, like, there's no social media on my phone. I don't kind of scroll, but I'll check emails every 5 minutes because it's there. So I've got rid of emails. Then I'll check WhatsApp every 5 minutes because it's there. So I'm like, fucking hell. It's like got control over me, and I didn't like that. Yeah. So I'm going to work on this. I'm trying to be more time blocked rather than task orientated. Yeah. Because that task list never ends, does it? It goes on forever. So I'm trying to get better with my time blocks at the minute. Yeah. And I'm finding that more beneficial because it's like, right, the phone's away for an hour. This is the only single task you've got to do in the next hour. Just do that. Yeah. And if it's not that, you don't fucking do it. So it's like meditation. I'm training myself to focus on one task at a time. It's hard, man.
This type of stuff is really powerful. Well, like we introduced something called a kill zone, right?
I love these names. so Marine Commando.
So the kill zone is it can be anything you want it to be, but in theory and practice, we teach it to be a 90-minute period, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So a 90-minute period, and we trigger it with alarms. So the alarm goes off at 8:55, says 5-minute warning, get ready to fucking go in your kill zone. So you choose the number one thing, the number one task that you need to do to move you forwards. So it could be, it used to be just based on work, but it could be anything. So you could go to the gym for an hour and a half, right? And say, you don't do anything, but you fucking work out for an hour and a half.
Love this.
You don't go fucking through your phone.
Sign me up, man.
Sign me up, bro. Or for your better man, you might go, I'm going to work on a brand new program. Yeah. So for an hour and a half, I'm all in on that. Your phone goes on, airplane mode. You know exactly what it is that you're going to achieve in that an hour and a half because you would have planned it the night before. Yeah. You go in, and then at 10:15, what you do is you get the next alarm because when you go in deep, and the intensity's there, right? So you're like, I'm fucking working away at this, like, and you lose track of time. So the trigger at 10:15 is to say you've got 15 minutes, so we need to wind down what you're doing, and then the next alarm goes off at 10:30, and then you're like, right, that's your time to stop. So what ends up happening at 10:30, between 10:15 and 10:30, you're slowly unwinding. You're reducing the intensity, because if you don't, the 1 minute past 10:30, you're then cutting into your break time. So then you go into your break time, and within that time, that's where you don't turn on your phone, but you go out and you take a couple of deep breaths. You go and make yourself a cup of tea. And what I usually do in my little, where I live, neighborhood, is like a 10-minute walk. James, yeah. There's like a 10-minute walk that you go around. So just decompress. Okay. Knowing exactly what I'm going to be doing at 11, ready for kill zone 2. So it's never the same task, because then you lose interest in that first task. So it's something different, right? So then we come back in, the alarm goes off at 5 to 11. Bang, off we go again, 11 to 12:30. And then what we do from 12:15 to 12:30 is the cool down, wrap up. 12:30 to 1 o'clock is then straight into lunch. 1 o'clock to 1:30 is then the first time I will look at my emails. And I will only open the door to my emails for 30 minutes, Monday to Friday, a day.
Yeah.
Anything outside of that will have to wait until I come back round 24 hours later. And that was game changing.
Yeah.
And that was game changing, 100% game changer. And one of the things that I did here as well is that's the first time I do all my posts in the morning as part of my morning routine. So I put content out to the world when I'm sitting in my fucking camping chair on the beach and I do my show and stuff, but I won't go back into it, all my WhatsApp messages, until that 1 to 1:30. So 1 to 1:30 becomes the communication half hour. So I've got team as well that will help me do this. But for me, my personal clients, that's when I get back to people, etc.
Yep.
And what it does is builds up an SRS. So we call this a structure, a routine, and a system. And it gets you to 12:30. So from my morning routine, starts at 4:15 in the morning, we go right up through to like 1:30. And then from there, I've got 1:30 until 3. So I'll do 1 hour logistics. So that 1 hour logistics is just maintenance everyday stuff that I need to do to run the business. Nothing deep, because I've gone past my deep period now. So between 9 and 12:30 is deep work, growth work. And then that sets me up to finish at 3 every day to do the school run. And again, this is all predicated around whether I do jiu-jitsu or not as well. Yeah. So,
okay, I love that. What's really great in there is, so I'm similar with these kind of, I call them flow blocks. Or I love the fact that you spend the night before knowing what you're going to do in those flow blocks, because the amount of times I've fallen down where in my schedule it's like podcast work, but then I come to it and I'm like, well, what am I actually fucking doing on the 100%. Podcast? So again, there's an inner distraction.
100%.
Because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, what shall I do? And it's not, I love that. So thank you for that. That's something.
But this would take it into the next level.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't even do it the night before, I do it the week before.
Oh, okay, nice.
Okay, so today's Thursday.
Yeah.
When I finish with you, obviously we've got a golf thing tomorrow. When I go to the hotel tonight, I've already started brain dumping what I'm going to do next week.
Yep.
So then tonight I will work out my priorities. And then tomorrow morning I will do my schedule for the week. So I know exactly what is going to be in those kill zones, what I'm doing, where I'm going to be. So I like to go into the weekend having clarity about where my time, energy, and focus is going.
Sure.
So we call it TEF, time, energy, focus. So this is where men can really benefit in terms of being in control. Everything is predicated around focus. A lack of focus means that you're wasting time and energy. Mm-hmm. Like and that's frustrating, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Frustrating. Yeah. So there's 3 different things. We can be on either side of the spectrum. We can either have control, progress, and have clarity about where we're going, or we can feel chaos, frustration, and anxiety. And those two, either side of those 2 different sides are dictated by what our focus is. So if you don't have focus, you naturally feel quite chaotic, right? You feel then, fuck me, frustrated, and then we feel anxious.
Yep.
Whereas if we know where our focus is going, we know where the time and energy is going, and we have more control, we can make more progression, and then we have more clarity. So you check your bank account, don't you?
Sure.
So bank account is no different to what we do with our time. So if you're checking in on how much money's coming in and how much is going out, this is simply keeping you accountable of where your time's going, where your energy's going.
Yeah.
And what's mad is that your time is far more valuable than the cash in your bank. You could lose $1,000, right? And you could probably work your nuts off and make it back.
Yeah.
You could waste this week. You will never get it back.
You ain't getting that back.
Never.
No.
And this is what I mean about understanding focus for men, is that if you can, and it doesn't have to be mega focus. I don't need you to know where you're going to be next year. If a man who hasn't been working on himself for a while is go, well, I don't even know where to fucking start. And this is where our 5 pillars come in, right? So we go, here's 5 pillars. Tell me what you're going to do for each one of those pillars by the end of the week, and just go in with that. Just start with that, see what happens. And this is where we start conditioning ourselves mentally, emotionally, and physically to achieve a focus, to be accountable for our time and our energy. And then suddenly we're going, fucking hell, that was great. Now what? Do it again. 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 Consistency. So all we're doing here is being consistent at a level that we're at. So if I asked you to run 30 miles every day for 30 days, could you run 30 miles every day for 30 days?
Ooh, be a tough one. I'd give it a big, but well, I don't know actually. That's a good question.
But if I turn around and said to you, Could you run 2 miles every day for 30 miles?
Yeah.
Fucking right.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's achievable, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So, and this is where men become inconsistent, because they're trying to do 30 miles every day for 30 days. So what we're doing is, for the first month or two, we're teaching men to have immediate focus. We're teaching them to be accountable. We're teaching them SRS, structure, routine, system. We're teaching them to manage their TEF, time, energy, and focus. Love a mnemonic, being a Royal Marine. And what we're doing is then conditioning them. And then after a month or two, we're going to say, right, tell me what your focus is over 28 days. Great. So then we do 28 days. Right. So let's break that down. What do we need to do in the first week? So now we're working to a bigger focus. Do that for another 2-3 months. Then I say, tell me what your focus is over 12 weeks. Like, fuck, okay, right, great. So tell me what you need to achieve in the first 28 days. Great, I need to achieve. Tell me what you need to achieve in first. And then all of a sudden, we've gone from having focused, and now we've got vision. And then after a couple more months, we go, tell me where you're going to be in fucking 1 year. Tell me where you're going to be in fucking 5 years.
Yeah.
So I can't just turn around to any one of these guys that's in this bar here and go, tell me where you're going to be in 5 years. Because they go, I don't know how to fucking do that. I couldn't take anyone who doesn't train, tell him to come in the gym and say, deadlift 300 kilograms for me, because they haven't been training. So what we have to do for men have to understand that there is, and this is expectations versus conditioning. We have to be able to allow men to understand that this is marginal gains, 1% a day, every single day until you die. The journey doesn't stop until you die. If you're in, all I need is 1% a day, which is 15 minutes a day, to plan your time, to know where you're going, to get up earlier, make these small marginal gains, and have a much better marriage, have more connection, have more self-awareness, self-master yourself, understand where your focus is going, feel like you're on a journey. And like, you could change, like we used to do the 5-day challenge, and in 5 days, lads' language was completely different, to go from fucking near on depressed to like, I am fucking ready, let's go.
Sure.
That's how quickly
it's focus,
change.
Isn't it? Like you say, the way we break it down, very similar. It's like you're either distracted or you've got traction in your life. You know, you're either moving closer towards where you want to be or further away. But yeah, I love everything you're saying, man. It sounds fucking awesome. And I think one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of guys make, and you've touched on it, is when they join a new program, they're often in a period of like they're motivated. So they do overestimate their ability to do things. And it's a bit of a shock to a guy when he realises he can't stick to the things that he says he's going to do. Yeah. And then two things will happen. He'll either kind of like reel in his expectations and start to build, like you say, these marginal gains, or he'll fuck it off and go, I'm useless, man. I can't do it. 100%. So there's so much power in kind of like undershooting, but doing it and taking it off as a win. Yeah. You have to be very humble. You know, to start off with just getting out of bed when that alarm goes off. Dude, that's a big fucking deal.
Everybody wants big.
Everyone's
impatient.
Yeah, well, the one thing we do really well inside the Better Man is we record all these small wins and we collect them over time, and eventually you've got this library of evidence. So it's not fake confidence. It's like, actually, I am a man who does what the fuck I say. And it might have started from making your bed, but now you're the guy who says, you know, he's going to do something big, like go and work out for 90 minutes and do a marathon at the end of 12 weeks. He'll do it. Yeah. It's a nice, confident feeling to have. You know, when you say something and it's done.
It's done. But it's also important to recognise the losses. Like, so we have a wins and losses post every Friday, and I'm like, put your top 3 wins, your top 3 losses, because all we're doing is condition ourselves to recognise where we slipped, if we have slipped. Yep. Do you know?
And the growth that comes from it too.
100%. Yeah. Like, I think lads and everybody, every human being feels like, oh God, if I fail, it's a bad thing. If you don't fail, you're never going to grow.
Well, what are you doing if you're not failing?
If you're not failing, you're not trying, are you?
You're not trying anything.
You're not trying anything.
Or it's so safe that there's going to be no incentive to do the work anyway.
Imagine going through your life and never failing.
I know. How unexciting, man.
I'm just trying to go, I just don't want to fail. I just don't want to fail. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, search for it. What would you say the number one kind of like issue that you have to deal with most men is? What's that most like obvious and common theme that keeps showing itself?
I just think there's so many. I think I do feel there's a real self-esteem issue within men. Okay, like there's lots of different things. There are a couple of, like, this focus, structure. There's all of that. I really believe that men struggle to believe in themselves, and I believe it stems from the generation of their fathers that never instilled confidence in those men that are our age today.
So the way they were brought up.
100%.
Yeah.
And I wrote a post on this the other day, a little article, and I was saying it's down to us as leaders to change that. This is where we change the world, right?
Sure.
This is where we go, if you want to, so I say to my boy, if you want to be an NFL player, I will do everything in my fucking power to get you there. I will drive you, like we're going to London on Saturday to play his third tournament. I will pay for you to go to training. What I want from you is to show the fuck up. We go to the gym 5 days a week. You train, you put the work in. He trains, he puts the work in.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I look at this is that I'm going to do everything physically possible, but in the process, he is going to be a fucking monumental young man.
Yeah.
He's ripped, he's strong, fucking hell.
How old is he?
He's 16
Nice.
in August, so he's still 15, but he's practically 16. And along the way, he's going to learn all about himself. He's going to build that character. And he said to me yesterday, it nearly made me cry actually. He's not academic. He struggles with processing issues. He's in his year by 8 days, so he's in his GCSEs. Number one, I don't believe in GCSEs. I don't believe they do anything for our kids' mental health. But he said to me, I don't know how the chat happened, but he said, I don't consider myself intelligent. And I said, why is that? He goes, I'm just not intelligent at school. And I was like, those exams don't define your intelligence. Like I said, look at it. We just come back from an hour's training last night from NFL, and he's playing with adults. I said, your intelligence on the pitch was the best on the pitch. You were the best on the pitch in terms of match intelligence. And this is where I really felt my message was important, that you're not defined by a piece of paper. You might be really good at taking exams, but I said, babe, in about 4 months, all of those exams, for me personally, people might disagree, are going to be worth dick. Like, that doesn't teach you about, like, it teaches you to be in exam conditions, but if you're not academic, of course you're not going to, it's suited for academics, right?
Yep.
People who are on top of their game. I said, if there was a kickboxing exam, GCSE, where they trained you on your kick and your strength and your attitude to your training and you getting up and your skills and your determination, you get fucking A star every time. But they don't. So you're intelligent in other ways. And that's what we need to be doing with our kids.
So what do you think defines a good man then?
That's a really good question. I think there's a couple of things. I don't believe there's ever one thing. I don't think we can ever narrow it down to one thing. I think as a father, it's showing love and support. Unconditional, and no matter what, always being there for them, supporting them, no matter what. I think as a husband, it's to show loyalty and support, like in terms of, I look at my wife and she does so much for the kids. She allows me to be able to do my job to help men by babysitting. She has a business. She looks after horses and dogs as a physiotherapist. She'd love to be out full time. But you know what? She stays at home and she supports Darcy, supports me, keeps me on my feet. So I need to support her and show her loyalty.
Sure.
I think in that. And then I think a man should believe in his potential. I think every man has such monumental potential to be whatever they want to be. And I often do a lot of people watching when I go to London or I go down. I look at people and they're just content with being unhappy. And you can see unhappiness in the face, can't you? You can see where a soul is like not. And I kind of think to myself, just go and try something different. Just change the story. Just realise how amazing you are. And sometimes I just want to go up to guys. Like when I hug guys at the end of our seminar, whenever we do a seminar, sometimes I can really feel the love. Like I can really feel like I fucking needed that. And I think sometimes my role is almost to give guys permission to go and live the lives that they want to live. I've had a couple of really good emails of guys who are high up in corporate, quit their job, went travelling, sold up everything and lived the life of their dream, right?
Yeah.
That's potential. So what really defines a good man, I think, is a combination of realising your potential, being loving and supporting, and having unconditional love for your children. And I think if you put all of them into one bubble, I would say it's been the ability to be able to lead yourself.
Yeah, well, it's certainly not defined by a role, right? Like a job title, for example. So I'm with you. You know, we spent a lot of time lately in the Better Man talking about this. You know, about the courage that we need to show as men, our thirst for wisdom and knowledge, honor, loyalty,
great
love.
words.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And this is great because every man can relate to that, regardless of whether you want to go and grow a business or be a father at home. You need those qualities, the discipline that you need to achieve anything good in life.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what we work hard on. I don't care what my guys do for a living.
Yeah.
You know, if they want to stack shelves because it means they can spend time with their kids, I'm like, fucking, do you know what I mean?
That's success, though.
Absolutely.
That is fucking success.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people out there will go, oh, fucking hell, he's on like 18 grand a year. And then you look at the CEOs on 120 grand, but the CEO's seen his kids 2 hours a week. The guy who's stacking shelves has seen his kids fucking most of the week.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
he
absolutely.
lives that to me is ultimate success.
Yeah, that's a real purpose, you know. That's a life project to become that guy.
Yeah.
Because not a lot of us are, or we might not have been born or brought up that way.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, in fact, the opposite. We're very rarely taught these skills.
That's the fight, though, right? And that's what I was talking about with the generation and a number of guys that I speak to. They were never, like, they had all these ambitions and dreams, and that's no, just go and get down the factory, lad. Go and get fucking earning the money. That's that's bullshit. That winds me up as well. That old masculinity mentality. Like 10 years ago, masculinity used to be this one umbrella, and this big one umbrella. Every man kind of felt like they had to be underneath that umbrella. This is masculinity, guys. So make sure you're here. Whereas actually, I believe we've all got our own umbrellas to stand underneath. So for me, I believe like you should be vulnerable as a man. Equally, I believe you should be strong as a guy, but vulnerability is strength in my head. So, you know, I'm quite comfortable with my masculinity, and I cry maybe 2 or 3 times a week. I'm still getting rid of stuff.
Yeah.
I would look at a video and go and cry for somebody else in terms of their happiness. Does it make me less of a man? Absolutely not, right? I will open up on social media and say I'm having a really bad time, right? I'm struggling mentally. Does it affect my masculinity? Absolutely not. Do you know what I mean? I
do know what you mean. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think we might have swung the other way a little bit too much on, especially on like platforms like social media, where we are telling now youngsters that they can be anything they want to be. Which most of that statement is true. Like sometimes you can't be what you want to be. You know, you might not have the genetic makeup to be an NBA basketball player, but in whole, like, you know, we should at least encourage our kids to pursue their dreams. Yeah. But we have to back that up, like you said. Look, son, if you want to go to the NFL, I will support you. But
you've got to do the work.
The gym 5 times a week. Yeah. 100%. Sometimes people miss the work.
I think that's really important. That's a really important point. It's the execution, right? Yeah. Everyone's got a daydream. Yeah. Everyone's got a fucking daydream. Yeah. But what separates the good to the great is the work ethic.
Sure.
You know, and I always look at myself and always challenge myself and going, am I putting the work in? You know, and I kind of, am I doing what I said I was going to do? Because it's easy not to. And you brought up a really good point of distraction. Like, we can get caught up and we can get caught out. And I think that's really important. And it's really important to understand what work is required to be an NFL player, to run your own business, to get 1,000 men in front of you. You know, one of my career ambitions is to talk in front of 1,000 men. That's so fucking hard.
I know.
And I know that's about 8 years away. Like, I know I need to show up for the next 8 years like I am now.
Yeah.
To make that work, to make that happen. That's not something that's going to happen anytime soon. But I know the execution has to be. I watched Conor McGregor Forever, Netflix.
That was good, wasn't it? Yeah.
I've only watched the first 2, but I watched the second one last night.
Yeah, it's good.
And like whether you love or hate him, like, I love his work ethic. Right, he's a bit mental, and I love that. He's eccentric, but his commitment when he talks about hard work, I just love it. We keep moving forwards. We keep driving forwards. We keep showing up. We keep doing the work.
Yeah.
And he was even guilty of saying that he slacked with Khabib, right?
Yeah, he said he was at 70%. I love that you're saying this because I posted the link to the trailer. It said, guys, I know not everyone here loves Conor, but I said, if you want to get in the head 100%. Of mindset of a champion, just watch this.
Elite operator.
Yeah.
We always have this alter ego of the elite operator. The elite operator is the guy that combats the chimp. So we built up the elite operator. So you look at any of the top sports athletes, you need to go above and beyond. And I actually believe that some of the I was in a mastermind once with a runner, really top runner, and we were talking about what separates. Why were you not ever Olympic champion? Why were you never world champion? Why do other athletes feel like they can never get? Do they really believe that they can do it? So when Mo Farah, the runner, when he was dominating, did he and Usain Bolt, when they were dominating the field, I wonder what the mentality of all the other athletes were. Were they training to become second, or were they training to win? Right. And when I listen to Conor McGregor, he only trains to win.
Yeah.
There is no doubt. There is no doubt. And I really think there's a lot of power there for men and women, for any individual who's looking to work on themselves. You only wake up to win. You only wake up to thrive. You only wake up to achieve the things that you said you were going to achieve, right? There is no... And I think McGregor lost that fight to Khabib because he only showed up at 70%. And it's the finer details of your process and of the story that you tell yourself that elevates you to achieve everything you want to achieve, to get to the standard you want to get to. If you really want to be fucking successful in life, if you really want to have a great life, then there's always sacrifice. There's getting up at 4:15 in the morning, going to bed at 9 o'clock, not drinking at the weekends when everyone else is having a drink, you know, putting yourself on the line in a jiu-jitsu tournament, or running a 100-miler, or doing something that makes you feel uncomfortable. And I loved how he always talks about mastering his mind.
Yeah.
Like I fucking got those butterflies, but I watched those butterflies and I watched those emotions, and I when he was talking, I was going, that's fucking everything we're talking about. And he's talking at the very highest level.
He is.
But we're talking about it in terms of just showing the fuck up, to be the leader to your wife, or be the leader to your kid. Like that fucking kid's looking at you.
Yeah.
He's looking at you on your phone. I look at the phone very much as like the old adverts of a parent walking around with a fag on them. Like, you know, if they're walking around and the kid's got a crayon in. So me and my wife had a moment, like we had this toy play phone. My 2-year-old was going around pretending to talk on it and texting on it. I was going, oh my fucking God, that's like the crayon.
Yeah.
Or smoking. I was like,
I get you.
We don't have phones.
Yeah.
Like, and what's one of the things, and we can't just stop that, but one of the things we're trying to get in the habit of doing is not being on our phones around the kids.
Yeah.
Because they know when you're not present. I'll just be there in a second. Yeah, I've just come in. I've just got to send this. I've just got to. How many fucking times have you said that? And then all she hears is, "Oh, Dad, he's just coming. He's just like fucking." They want you like, and I'm not saying you should drop everything. There's certain conditions, but in overall life, they're only going to be 2-year-olds once. They're only going to be 7-year-olds once. Once that time is gone, and now I know as I've got an 18-year-old who I'm desperate to see more of. And she wants to hang out with her mates.
I know, mate. I know. I think the scary thing is, and you know, you sound really good at this, but like, I think a lot of people will be doing those behaviours, but not even aware that they're doing it. So the first thing you have to do is, like you say, almost catch yourself.
Yeah.
Like, see yourself being that guy who's ignoring his kids.
Yeah.
For his email that, like you say, can quite rightly wait until fucking tomorrow. I don't care what it's about. But yeah, the Conor McGregor thing, I got like pumped up watching it too. I thought, right, how can I translate this to just the average guy out there who might be like 8 stone overweight who's let himself go? But I was like, do you know what? There's nothing better than becoming the guy who's 8 stone overweight and conquering himself and getting himself into shape. I was like, I would love to be 8 stone overweight.
Just to lose it.
There's my fucking mission.
Let's go. We're going fucking on a binge and put 8 stone on.
But there was a PT that did that.
I know, I saw it.
Yeah,
I saw it.
But I thought, what a fucking mission. Wouldn't you love that?
Do you know what it is? Purpose.
That comeback is powerful.
But it's, and this is what I said at the very beginning. I don't even remember. I was saying, it doesn't matter that you got to that weight. Like, you got to that weight for whatever reason. You felt shit about yourself. You've gone through trauma.
Yeah.
You lost that life for a little bit. But it does matter what you do the next day.
Sure.
That's what matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where you mustn't go, oh my God, fucking pity party. Then that's the other thing about men, is they just fucking fall into this pity jail.
I think the older you become, the harder it is to
hard.
find reasons. Like, if you're 50, let's say you're 60 and your 8 stone overweight, I can understand, not that I think it's right, why someone might think it's too late for me.
Fuck it.
Yeah, I fucked up.
Fuck it. 60. Listen, at 60, you still got 40 years left.
Potentially.
You still got. So what are you going to do? Just say fuck it for the next 40 years.
People do, mate.
Fucking carrying that weight. Like, it doesn't matter what age you are. It's never too old. It's never too old. I've got this crazy ambition that I'm going to run 50 miles when I'm 50, and I'm going to run 100 miles when I'm fucking 100.
My client did that. He got to 64 though, and he was like, I'm done. I can't fucking run this distance. But yeah, I think he celebrated.
But that's the mentality.
Yeah.
It's the story, right?
Yeah.
You tell yourself, if you start turning around and go, oh, fucking this and that. Listen, have you got missiles coming in? Are you building trenches and trying to fucking fight off people to overtake? Like, when you put things into perspective, right? people's problems, compare them to what's going on around the world. It's a real humbling fucking approach to snap you the fuck out your little pity party mentality that's going on. Because what, you feel a bit overweight or you don't feel life's going your way. When you start digging a trench because fucking your country's been invaded, that's when you really know how privileged and how lucky you are to be in the position you're in, right?
I can't argue. One of the reasons, I've got many reasons for doing charity work, but like I struggled with a bit of humility once and used to think that my problems were the centre of the world. So I started doing a lot of work with like children's charities. Kids that were probably never going to see their fucking 15th birthday. And like you say, it snaps you into reality of, Alex, never fucking moan about the shit that you're in control of ever again. So I had to really kind of get my hands dirty and see it, because I could write my gratitude list down, or I could actually go out and experience gratitude.
I feel it.
And then do something good for those people less fortunate than me.
Feel it.
And that, like I say, that is a fucking shock. That's for sure.
It's horrible. It's sad. And again, it all comes down to that. For me, it's the number one component of self-mastery, self-awareness.
It starts there, doesn't it?
It starts there. Like, it's the front door. It's the front door to everything.
Yeah. 100%. Where did you get this patient approach of like, I'm going to have to show up for 8 years before I step in front of 1,000 men? Is that taught from the military, or is that within you?
No, I think like I was super impatient when I first started in business. Like, super impatient. I used to compare myself to lots of other people who got successful really, really quickly. And I think it's just learning about yourself, isn't it? You understand yourself, you understand what's going on. And then I asked myself, what do you want? Like, you're never going to be happy anyway, James. Like, whatever you do, if I did 1,000 guys, I'm going to want 2,000 guys.
You're so right.
Right?
Yeah,
when you
absolutely.
earn 1 million, you want 10 million.
Yeah.
So I kind of come to the conclusion that, and my wife always says it, you're never going to be happy. But I remember sitting at the table, and it was last September, and I was sitting with my wife. She goes, what's the fuck? She goes, what's fucking wrong with you? Like, you look like proper feeling sorry for yourself. And I was just going through, we all feel, by the way, anyone listening, we all go through the petty stuff. So I can relate to it so much because I go through it myself, right? And I have really stern words with myself. Anyway, I was sitting there, what's the fucking, and I said, I'm just not happy where my business is going. She goes, the James of 4 years ago would have given his fucking right arm for the way the James of today is. Fucking get your ass into gear. And I just snapped out of it like that. Was that
you saying that, or the wife?
No, it's the wife saying it to me.
Brilliant, mate.
She was so right, because the James of 4 years ago was like, where am I fucking going with this?
Yeah.
And now I've built up this like decent following. I've got 2 books out in that time, running. So like, anyway, all the stuff that's going on around it, all of the stuff, and you forget it, and you're like, why do I need that 1,000 guys now? Why? And what I tell the guys on my business mastermind is, are you enjoying the process? Because the minute you're not enjoying the process and you're forcing those outcomes and you want them now, is the minute you lose life, because you suddenly become 80% business, 20% everything else. And in that 20%, you've got to fit your wife, your kids, your jiu-jitsu, your golf, your training. So your wife probably only gets about 8% of that, your kids maybe 5%, and then all of a sudden everything is sacrificing. And what I realized is that you can't have everything without sacrifice. Mm-hmm. So, and actually everything used to be business, whereas everything is now family first, like families first. So I've got a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. And to put the work in to find 1,000 people to get in front of me, I would have to sacrifice time with them. And I'm not prepared to do that at the minute. And I think to myself, I'm 44. I've probably got another 30 years where I'm going to work. I've got no intention of wanting to retire. I love doing this work. Why don't I just wait 5 or 6 years, watch my kids grow up, have a really amazing connection with them, and then fucking push it a little bit harder when they're a little bit older?
Yeah, makes sense.
Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. My life changed when I started planning my diary and time with my personal values first.
100%.
And my business one. Yeah, so now mum and dad time is all day Thursday now, so I don't work Thursday.
Good.
Gym training is in there before any work, because I'm not sacrificing my own health for my business.
We can't even run your business unless you're the asset of the business, right?
Not when we're doing what we do. We can't preach to guys about physical health
100%.
if me and you are fucking like not taking that seriously.
To be the asset of your business, you have to be at the forefront of it as a leader.
I think so.
You're not if you're not going to the gym and you're not doing what you say. Yeah. There are some times when I don't do what I'm saying I'm going to do, or what I preach. Man. That's human being. I'm happy to admit that. There will be many coaches out there like, I'm fucking perfect. You got to be perfect too. It's wrong message to send.
That's another thing that changed my life. When I stopped pretending to be perfect.
Yeah, 100%.
I've still got a lot of shit to work on, man.
Fucking every day, and I still will till I die.
Absolutely.
The problem, we're humans.
Yeah.
We have human brains. We have emotions. We're real people.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, and I think that's what people forget. And they're like, "Oh, you must be fucking all over it all the time." Yeah, you know what? 90% of the time, I've got my shit together. But there is this 10% that will always remain there, because if it's not one thing, it's going to be another fucking another.
Do you show that 10%?
Yeah.
You do. So you're talking about on socials, you get it out there and you say, this is what's happening.
This is what happened. I remember coming back from my holiday last year. I've done more since then, but the standout one was my first Rise to Thrive show. After my 10 days away in Tenerife, I opened up and said, look, I've got porn addiction. I fucking watching too much of the news. I've been quite negative. I've become obsessed with work. I've fucking driven myself into the ground. And everyone went mad for it. They were like, thank you so much. It makes me feel so much better that you're an arsehole. No. But it made people real.
Relatable.
It's relatable. And people don't want to feel like shit. And I don't want them to. And I always promised myself that I would never present a false representation of myself. Everything I do on socials is a direct result of what I'm telling myself. Direct result. So if I'm turning around to someone saying, stop being a fuckwit, let's get to work, I'm really telling myself that, but sharing that with you. And that's how I look at my socials. It's a documentation of everything I'm going through.
Oh, that's cool.
So I wrote a post yesterday, and it was like, keep moving. In fact, let me just read it, because it's exactly... I'll turn my phone off. I'll get it up and read it to you in a sec. And it was a direct feeling of how I felt. And the first two lines were from McGregor Forever. And then the second two lines were something that I say to my guys a lot. And I put it up this morning, and like everyone's gone raving about it. It's kind of like, yeah, that's exactly right. And that's the ethos we need. We need that ethos sometimes just to go bring ourselves back. And it helps with the awareness, right?
Yeah. Did you give up pornography?
Yeah.
Give up pornography.
Yeah.
How long has that been?
So I haven't probably watched it for about 2 months.
Okay. Do you find it difficult?
I did at start.
It's fucking addictive stuff, right?
It's addictive.
I'll tell you why it's so addictive, because it's fucking great to watch, man.
It's fucking
lights that brain up as well as other fucking muscles in your body.
100%. And I'm at my worst when the wife's gone away to see her family or something like that. So she's away. She went away yesterday. Yeah. And last night I was like, I feel like I'm going to have sex virtually.
Mate, I don't think I've watched pornography for maybe 3 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, it's near impossible to go on the internet without checking some porno.
Nothing.
You were like...
It's everywhere. And I never used to have TikTok. But then I put TikTok on and it's like soft porn.
Yeah, I'm not on it. I've never been on it. Never been on TikTok.
Let me read this quote. Where is it? Come on now. Here we go. It's always the way, innit? When you think, I'll just get it
might
up.
be the reception in here as well, mate. It's not very good in the studio.
Okay. So we keep going, we keep moving forwards. There is no alternative. What's the last bit? Yeah, I think it might be the signal. Cut out right at the last minute there. Okay, we keep going, we keep moving forwards. There is no alternative. It's you versus you.
Always.
I love that it's you versus you thing.
Well, it's the only fair comparison. Like, if you are going to play the comparison game, like, you might as well just do it with yourself. Yeah. Because, you've had the same start in life. You're at the same point. I think guys fall victim of, like, comparing themselves to somebody that, to be honest, they're never going to be.
I did it.
Of course.
I did it.
But you can use that person's inspiration versus comparison. Yeah. So, I look at The Rock and Jocko and Goggins and, you know, these great authors of books that I read, and that I now use them as inspiration, not comparison.
That's difficult. The same. Yeah. There's a fine line as well. Yeah. And I remember my wife going, you sound just like so-and-so. And I was like, oh, my God. Yeah. And then suddenly you become the best version of that individual.
Yeah, it's not cool, right?
And not you.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't follow many people on socials. If there's less people to follow, the less you get caught up in that world. And there's a fine line, because I like listening to some of their stuff, right? David Goggins is a really interesting character. And he's actually the one person that I haven't, like, looked at and tried to compare myself to. Because I realise he's, like...
So fucking unique, mate.
Like, what he's like that 1 in 10 million years or whatever. But what I do find fascinating is how... people try to represent what he's doing themselves and fuck themselves up. So like when you don't run and then you start trying to run a marathon every single day for a month, and they've never run before, and then they've got shin splints or a fractured foot, and I'm just like, dude, like he's trying to promote, get fucking on with it, stop moaning, you don't need to run. And this is where, and we all fall foul of it, we've just admitted that as well. So it's not a criticism, it's just an awareness. Again, it's an awareness thing to say, dude, just recognise where you're at.
Yeah. You've got to take the essence of his message and apply 100%. It realistically into what you want to do in life.
How many years has he been doing that?
So many.
I
mean, and look at his upbringing. You know, he had a very turbulent upbringing. Like, he's clearly dealing with that in his own way.
Yeah.
So you have to show him some compassion. Like, that's not for everybody.
It's not for everyone. It's like when people, I'm not trying to create JBs. I don't want you to be anything like me. But what I want you to give you is the blueprint of what I've used to help me get to where I need to be.
Yeah, it's a difficult path for a guy to work out who he is, what he stands for. 100%. Because, you know, you're influenced heavily from the day you're born into this world. You know, your parents will instill values in you, so will society. And you get to a stage where you change, you go, I might have to tear all this shit down. You know, all this corporate world that I've been chasing or who I thought I was. Maybe I'm not that person. Yeah. So how do I start to discover who I am? It's a hard journey.
Question.
It is. I've had to let go some stuff lately. It's so... You know, because I've had this quite tough image for a while, you know, I'm a very disciplined man. And like I say, I've swung a bit too far that way, you know, and I've kind of neglected being vulnerable and open. I haven't wanted to fucking look at that stuff. So now I've got to come back to center a little bit. It's difficult because you're like, who am I really? You know, when social media's not watching, you know, when I'm on my own, who the fuck am I?
Yeah, it is a good equation. And I think you should always challenge yourself all the time. Always have a little look at a reflection in the mirror. Kind of always bring yourself back. Am I full of shit? Like, am I being full of shit right now? And I think if you're honest, like a lot of the times, like when we are being full of shit, we have to say, I'm done. Let's get back to basics. Do you know what I mean? But equally, like what you said, great awareness to go, I've gone too far one way. And you, in some respect, you have looked at yourself and gone,
always trying, I
need to bring that back slightly.
Do you know who Robert Greene is? He's Ryan Holiday's mentor who did the Daily Stoic. He's a fascinating guy. He kind of like says, look, we need certain masks to survive in this world, you know. So James Boardman, who runs his business, and Alex Myers, who runs his, of course, he's going to be slightly different to the father who shows up home. Yeah. So I've never really heard that, because a lot of the spiritual world is like try and remove the mask and get, you know, your true self. Yeah. But he's like, no. Like, you don't survive in the world these days without. So, for example, if we were totally honest and we went out there and we didn't like certain people because of what they said, and we shown them explicitly we didn't like them. Yeah. Fucking hell, your life would be chaos and carnage. You wouldn't fit in.
It filters, right?
Yeah, you kind of have to sometimes put a straight face on, and you might be thinking, you know, I don't particularly like this person, or I don't agree, but you can't always express authentically how you feel it. Yeah, well, you would, right?
You're fucking choking everyone out, wouldn't you?
It's a good point. He was like, well, sometimes, you can't. You have to fit in with society, and I know some of us say we don't care about fitting in. We have to fit in somewhere, whether it's with our family or something. We have to fit in somewhere,
of course.
And we can't do that unless we have some form of mask or ability to
emotional control.
And
I think that's where men struggle a lot, right?
I think the whole world is struggling with
this. The
whole
world fucking struggles.
That's why everyone is hating each other, arguing no problems are being solved, because everyone's going based off emotions and not off logical thought.
Do you think there's an element of this being the backlash of like being locked down for 3 years?
I don't think it helped.
Yeah.
I think
people have forgotten how to communicate.
Yeah, I think this has been coming for a while though. And again, I think lockdown exposed a lot of us, not really affected us that much.
How did you find it?
Fine.
Did you enjoy the time out?
I think you either went full on like I need to be careful here, or you went full on I'm going to be drinking for the next 2 years. Yeah. I know myself so well. If I'd have started drinking at the start, that would have been it for me, because that's a habit. You drink one night, 2 nights, you're forming a habit. Yeah. So I was like, Alex, you're smart. You've been here before. Don't hit the drink. In fact, train twice as hard in the garden.
I actually feel there's a bit of a fallout from COVID. And I think many men got to spend a lot more time with their kids and family, which they loved and realised.
It depends what dad was showing up though.
Well, this is not for every man.
Yeah, but like, dad's drinking more at home, so the kids get to see more of that shit. Do you know what I mean? Or dad's on his computer all day now.
Yeah, and I think off the back of it, where those guys who did enjoy being home and were family men and like who were busy guys, and then all of a sudden they're home, and then actually having to go back to that lifestyle, I think has definitely caused some stress. And it's almost that we have forgotten everything that we said in COVID. Like in COVID, I saw lots and lots. I did lots of research in COVID, and I was watching lots. Oh man, this is what I've been missing, or this is that lifestyle that I really want to build. Oh man, I feel so much more relaxed. And it's a stressful time, of course it was, and there was a lot of upset. But like it was different. There's 8 billion people on the planet, right? Every single person have a different experience. But as soon as the doors opened to the world again, it was really interesting to see people struggling to get back to normality and almost losing a grip of what they really wanted. And I always felt like it was a great opportunity to readjust or realign where you wanted to go with your life, having had a taste of how you wanted to live your life. And this is, again, not applicable to everybody, but like certainly for those guys who are at home, enjoying being at home. And I almost feel like, could we have done something? Could they have done something slightly different to gone, right, I'm going to make a bit of a goal here. I'm going to work on myself more. I mean, we were at our busiest through COVID. So people were working on themselves. All of a sudden, people were like influx. I remember we did a 28-day course. On the average course we get about 50 people. On the first one we did in COVID, we had 250 people.
Yeah, I can believe it.
And I was just like, fuck.
The way I viewed it is, this is either an opportunity or some, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Or it's something I'm going to moan about and take as a hit. So I used it as an opportunity.
Yeah, it's great.
And so I think some other people did too.
Yeah.
And some didn't.
Yeah.
And upon reflection, maybe people, like you say, when they return back to normality is not always a good thing.
No.
We spoke about this on the other podcast the other day. Like, it's so normal now to be in the rat race, to be stressed, to be overweight. And it's like, that normal isn't fucking good.
No.
In fact, it's very dangerous.
Yeah. Do you think people get comfortable there?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's normal. Dude, it's so much easier to fit in with society if you're not doing the work on yourself.
Because what I see lads doing sometimes when a pub is like, way, look at this. Mm-hmm. Like, and actually really deep down, they're like, oh, fucking hell, I feel really ashamed. Like,
I get it. But the best thing to do is if it's your fault. So I love it when it's your fault. So if you're the government, it's so much easier for me to take this finger and point it outwards at you.
Yeah, of course.
Do you know what I mean? I can do that for anything, whether it's my girlfriend, whether it's the government, or whether it's stress, or whether it's him or her.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Responsibility is big for man. Taking responsibility.
Well, it's empowering too, because when you say, okay, it's on me, you can actually do something about it then. If it's on you, I can't, what the fuck can I do if it's your fault? Yeah. If it's your fault that I'm this angry and stressed, he got in my head, then fucking hell, you're powerless.
Yeah. I truly believe that we're responsible for everything that happens in our life. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people go, oh, but if you get cancer and stuff like that. And of course, you've got no control over that. But you are responsible for how you react to that.
Sure.
And how you go to the next stages. And there's a guy who, he's going to talk at our seminar actually. He got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Wow.
And man, that fucking guy's a beast. He did ice baths. He was running topless. He was doing chemo, coming out and running 5K. He was like, fuck you. And he's free of cancer.
No way.
And I truly believe that is down to his mentality.
Wow.
And he's now training to be a who's the ice dude?
Wim
Hof, like coach or instructor.
Yeah.
So he's trained to do that. He's come to talk. I think.
What a legend!
What a legend! What a guy! And he, when I put the podcast on, when he did a little bit of a chat at the seminar, and I was saying to all of you fuckers moaning, and he's just got through fucking stage 4 cancer.
Mate, I have no faith in myself that I would react that well.
Oh, I don't.
Honestly,
I often think about it.
Yeah, I do, and I'm sorry to say this. It sound like a right bitch, but I reckon I'd hit the bottle and hit the cigarettes if I had stage 4. Yeah, I do. I don't think I'm that brave yet or courageous enough. But I don't know is the answer.
You don't know.
But when I hear stories like that, I'm like, that is next level. Yeah. That's inspiration.
Yeah, 100%. He went all in. But what you're thinking, I think any person that hears that will go rock bottom. And I think you have to, you would wallow and weep for a couple of weeks. There's no two ways about it, depending on whether it's curable or terminal, whatever. But then you have a choice after those couple of weeks, after that month. And I think you have a choice is to go, right, you're fighting for your life. Do you know what I mean? When the stakes are high, and like I often talk about motivation being like fucking wank, and it's just an emotion. As we all know, it will come and go like all the other emotions. But when you have an emotional connection like when you have an emotional connection to changing, to being in a fight, giving it your best option. And I often think about jiu-jitsu when it's never over till it's over. It's never over till I tap. So like if someone is dominating the fuck out of me, or I've got some guy throwing me around and I'm fucking fighting for my life, I'm in survival mode, I never just like let it go. I will fight until he literally has to work his nuts off to tap me out.
Do you think that kind of training then, and people may never relate the two, can help you in situations like when you get the stage 4 cancer?
I don't know.
You know, if you're a BJJ guy and like you say, you're used to being a fighter.
Do I think it would help?
Surely couldn't hinder, right?
I'm sure it must. Like the thing is, I could never answer that because I've never been hit with that news.
Of course.
And it would be unfair for me to say, but I would like to think that with all my military history, with me, I've gone to Afghan, with all the hardship that I faced and overcome, with everything I've done, whether it's in a rolling or whether my dad dying at 6 or whether putting up with 15 years of an emotional, abusive stepfather, I like to think that everything I've gone through life, as David Goggins would say, has hardened me for life.
Yes.
But when you get hit with that news of something so severe, I just don't know how. You just can't say. It's because what I do is, you know, when we watch the TV and we go, oh, fuck, I would do, like, I see lots of people looking at the SAS who dares wins and go, yeah, I'd fucking do that. I'd fucking smack. Go on then. You wouldn't fucking last a day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I can give you relation to knowing how hard that is.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's Goggins' argument, like that all of that hardship that you have been through does prepare you better for life than someone who hasn't. And it makes logical sense. And do you know what I mean? Like we voluntarily put ourselves in a position of like BJJ, for the immediate, but we kind of know that it's good for us in the future. We know it makes us stronger. Yeah. And life, whether it be cancer or just challenges that life presents, the transferable skill set that we spoke of, you can take what you've learned from BJJ and you can apply it into all those times when you 100%. Absolutely need it.
100%.
So it's important that you do difficult things.
You just never know when you're going to need that in the bag, right? You're never going to know when you need that little bit of energy. That like if one of your kids get ill or you become made redundant and suddenly you're up against the wall. You could be running along in a nice smooth road and then all of a sudden you've hit this fucking speed bump. Mm-hmm. And that's when we really need to define our character and find out what we're made of and stand up and be counted, because there is no alternative. Like what I said in that quote, there isn't an alternative. What do? Just give up and allow yourself to die? Is that you know, I want to be, if I did get that terrible news, there's got to be some wood in here to touch.
That'll do, mate. Yeah.
I'd like to know that I went down fighting right until I was tapped out.
Yeah.
Until that's it, to the end.
Well, I've got a professor coming in next week, and he's an expert in male suicide, so I'm really interested in speaking to him because, some people don't. You know, some people do tap out early.
They do,
and it's real sad.
Do you think it's impulsive? Like, do you I wonder how many people that have. I wonder. Let's say this week. I wonder how many people have killed themselves this week, and if they were given the option, would they still do it?
The way it's explained to me is that no one really wants to kill themselves or die. They just want to end the pain and suffering.
That's how I felt.
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
I get it. You know, when you hear people say it's cowardly, I don't think like that. I just feel empathy and compassion for anyone that wants to end their life.
Yeah.
Like, how much pain must they be in?
Yeah.
And there's times where I've been like, what is the point of all this, man? Like, I didn't ask for this fucking shit. I didn't ask to be born. Yeah. You know, is this all it is? Fucking hell. All this struggle, this self-development. I've got to try and convert myself into a good man, and I'm going to die anyway. All that stuff can eat at you. Do
you think we have those thoughts when we're backed up against the wall? Is it a way out?
Potentially, and I think when we analyse too much, because I think the deeper we go, like the more we will realise, we don't understand, and it's very complex.
Because I think you can have suicidal thoughts without being suicidal.
Definitely. I mean, how many guys or people have just been driving one day and suddenly they get this image of them steering the
100%.
Happens to me all the time.
Or getting a rope in the garage and just fucking hanging. You visualise it and you're
never going to do it though.
Never.
Or not at that point anyway. No. But the driving one's the weirdest one. Just that flash of
so many guys say that. So many guys say that to me.
What is that?
I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's in the minute I've just fucking had enough.
Don't know what it is. Because things can be okay.
Yeah.
You can be driving along with your music on, all of a sudden, boom, this thought. Whether there's something inside of us that, I mean, some people believe in good versus evil, you know, and part of our job in life is to make sure good prevails. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like I know that when I had decided to I was in a pretty fucking dark place.
Of course, yeah.
And I remember being in a lot of pain and just not wanting to feel that anymore. And that's what I was talking about, that greater fucking like presence in that night, just to fucking get me out of that, because I was convinced that was it. I was fucking set on it. I was like done. And I'm still grateful today. Of course I am. Like, you know, not that I didn't go through with that.
Sure.
And it was almost like in my head that I did, but I didn't do it. Like, and I almost feel the relief on the other side of not doing it. On that, like when I got back from the house, I was fucking crying. I was like, oh my God, that was like, what on earth would I have done there?
What do you think would have happened if you hadn't had your kids at that point?
Oh, I think I probably would have done it.
Yeah.
I think at that moment, yeah, you know, I've never thought that. Yeah. But I don't think there would have been anything to keep me.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, at 38, I struggle with this because I haven't got kids.
The other thing is well, that I wonder, I probably would never have left the military, so I never would have been in that state if I didn't have kids. So again, the situation or the timeline leading up to that may have, but then would it have happened after 22 years? Because this is what something pro athletes go through, military personnel go through. They give 22 years of service, they come out and they're like, now what? Yeah. You go through being a professional footballer where everything's done for you. And everyone goes, yeah, he's got loads of money, but that doesn't mean they're fulfilled, right? And I feel like there's a real mental health, there's a real bridge to gap for pro athletes finishing and then going, now what? Yeah. Servicemen finishing and going, now what? Who the fuck am I? Where do I go from here? You've lived such an intense lifestyle, and then suddenly going, what? You know, some go naturally like the fatherhood, some like go on to be sports commentators, and like what you said, when there's no kids, what there's no wife or husband, what if you're just a pro athlete who's got nothing, all your mates were the football team, and now you wake up every single morning, it's just you?
I hate the argument of, but it's all right, you know, they're set for life financially. I'm like, these guys they're driven by more than finance. Like that people want purpose and a reason to get out of bed. Money in your bank is not a reason to get out of bed. It's not. I get that. You know, I think it's a bit of a weak argument for me. But yeah, there's bigger things to pursue. But
you look at some of the passion on the pitch.
Sure. Like you say, those bonds, especially in military situations, there's stories of people not even thinking about jumping on bombs to protect their teammates. They just instinct. Do it. And how, like in normal life, where the fuck do you create that strength of bonding? So I get it, man. The military is something that I bottled when I was 16. I was just too scared to join. And I kind of wish I had, but I know there's a weird, dark part of me that it would be quite suicidal, I think. It would be escapism for me.
Yeah. It was escapism for me.
I think a lot of guys I've spoke to, I've had a few ex-military guys on. When they're really honest, they go, "Yeah, I was getting away from this."
I was a store manager at McDonald's.
Yeah. Okay.
And I had a great job. But I was 2003. I was on about 20 grand a year, which is good for back then. You know,
I was a lot of dollar then.
A lot of dollar. I was 20, 22, 23. Yeah. I had my girlfriend who was my first wife. We didn't have any kids at the time, and we lived in a ground floor flat. And I was just going, there's more to life. I can't tell you what that was. I was just sitting there in the store at the very back, managing the operations. I was running a £6 million store at 22, 23 years old, going, there's more to life than this. And then I watched a film called Black Hawk Down.
Top film.
Fucking best film ever.
Great.
And I looked at that, and at the very start, there was this Royal Marine Commando advert. And it was of a lad going through the tunnel. He's like breathing like this, and he's like going through the tunnel. He gets snagged, and the tunnel's coming out. And then the Royal Marine's going, compose yourself, good lad, off you go. And I was like, oh my God, that's me. And then the next scene is him on a boat, camouflaged at night, looking like a fucking rock hard like soldier. And I was like, that's me. 18 months later, quit the job, like risked the relationship, just went. Never look back.
Amazing story, man. Yeah, there's something very appealing about it. Yeah, very, very appealing.
I think I'm a big fan of saying I think we need 6 months to a year of national service. Yeah. And I don't mean get on the front line, we're going to fucking war, but I mean in terms of basic discipline, structure. And I could talk to you about the next 3 hours about how I think the school curriculum is so fucked up and outdated. Mm-hmm. But I think there has to be something for kids between like 15 and 19 that teaches them structure, vision, discipline, self-awareness, health, fitness, something. And then once they've done that 6 months to a year, they can then like we can nurture those to be really great soldiers, leaders, or they go away with life skills.
Yeah.
And I just think there's something there.
Yeah, that came up as potentially like a PE lesson type military style thing. So I believe in discipline so much that I think it should be taught
100%.
through boxing or BJJ or
100%. Jiu-jitsu should be in school.
Yeah.
You've got in a school maybe 600 hot-headed, heated teenagers who are full of testosterone, who are lions in a pack going around to see who's the alpha. And if you had 2 or 3 jiu-jitsu sessions a week for PE, where it's controlled, disciplined, where you teach respect and being humble, like you come out of there and you're not going to have all these fights that are going on.
James, I agree. And you can't be a bully in BJJ because there's always someone better than you.
Always.
So if you want, like, I learned this very quickly. If I want to swagger in there with a bit of an ego, there's someone that can fucking tap me out 100%. In seconds. And I suddenly don't feel like I'm this big dog anymore. You know what I mean? I'm humble, I'm polite, I'm more respectful because I know that this guy can check me out.
100%. And we spoke about this at Jiu-Jitsu the other day. I was going, like, you look at the line when you line up at the start, you've got all the fucking big dudes out there. And, like, I'm somewhere in the middle. But, like, I can give a really good roll to the top guys.
Sure.
But they still crush me.
Yeah.
I'm fucking Royal Marine Commando, man. Fucking, like, I was kind of fucking squashed.
Yeah, but like for some guys with ego, that will just spur them on to tap you out a bit more.
100%.
Yeah.
But I think, like, it should be in school. Like, discipline should be in school. How to handle money, how to communicate. But, like, do we need algebra anymore? With AI, I was listening to a podcast with Stephen Bartlett on AI on coming up. Fascinating.
Yeah.
But we're going into an AI, Google, ask Siri, Alexa, anything you need. Do we need to do all of the stuff that would do we need that education? Do you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Or is there an opportunity for school to ditch exams so that the kids that I looked at my kid and over the last 2-3 weeks, he's been unrecognisable in his character. He's been asleep by 7 every night. He's been wrecked. He's hardly been able to talk or get up. He's fucked mentally and emotionally from the exams.
Wow.
And I'm not saying all the kids are like that. And I'm saying I put this argument up on social media and it was very interesting about the different responses on the different social media platforms.
Okay.
So like Instagram and Facebook were very much of, I don't believe we should have GCSEs. LinkedIn was very much, I think we need GCSEs.
That's because LinkedIn's boring as fuck.
It's like systemized.
I've been slagging LinkedIn lately, and I'm just about to go back on it as well, but I've realised how dull as fuck it is, and there's some right snobs on there.
Well, the problem is that, what I think we're trying to do is prepare human beings for the system. And I don't want to get into too much. I'm not political and I'm not in, I kind of keep some of these things to myself, but one of my strong thoughts is that we need to create people that are going to express themselves more, understand their emotions more, understand human behavior more. And I just think we would, when we're out at the end of our lives, all of these kids coming through, they had these life skills. I think they would make the world a much better place. But it's a long battle.
Of course it is, but you nailed it earlier when you're doing your job. You've sorted your own shit out and you're still working on it to produce and raise children that 100%. Are going to have a better chance than what 100%. You did. And that's how it chisels down.
And the way that I look at what you and me do is that we do that with the fathers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
If we can influence, and I always say, if I can influence one man a day to be a better guy,
well, mate, change the world.
That then influences 2 more kids. That then they look at their dad and go, right, I want to be like this.
Yeah.
And then their kids, and then their kids,
and every person they meet,
and every person they
meet,
every
woman they're with,
100%.
Or partner, and it's just incredible when you do the web of influence. It's not as simple as just they're 2 kids. It's and everyone they come into fucking contact with.
100%.
So if you raise a James Boardman who then goes on to help hundreds of men too. It's like fucking hell. Well, there's thousands and 100%. Thousands of men. So, mate, listen, we need to wrap this up.
Okay.
A couple of questions though. Don't run off just yet.
Okay, let's do it.
What's next for you, man? I know you've got your 8-year mission to get in front of 1,000 people, but what's next for you, personal or business?
Okay, so personally wise, in 2 years, once the boy gets through college, we're planning to travel the world.
Mate, amazing.
I think we really want to do it.
All of you?
All of us.
Wow.
So the big girl will be at uni, so she's not keen.
Get saving, bro.
We've been saving for the last 10 years. Last 8 years we've been.
Wow.
We've been. This has been part of a 10-year movement.
Amazing goal, mate. Yeah.
the boy has always said he wanted to come, so hopefully he will. We can take the girls out of school. My 2-year-old will be 4, so she doesn't have to go to foundation, so she'll just go straight into year 1.
Fuck school, man.
Yeah. But you learn so much.
That is a better education, traveling the world.
100%.
I promise you that.
And like the smart girls, like the 6-year-old is like doing great, and we can homeschool. So personally, it's that. I'm running 100 miles in a couple of weeks. Once that's done, I'm just going all in the gym and jiu-jitsu. You know, I'm just going to enjoy life. Professionally, we're continuing to work with men. We're actually going to open a program for women at the end of the year. It's not going to be at the forefront. We're just going to do a couple a year, and just try and see if we can help a couple of women, you know, in some of the same sort of criterias. A lot of the things that men face, women do as well.
Sure, of course.
We are working with business owners as well. We're looking to do a couple of retreats as well. Just marginal gains. Exactly what we're doing, but consistently.
Awesome.
In that respect. So I'm looking forward to the journey. Enjoy the process. Love the process. Recognize the growth. Recognize the wins. Learn from the failures, and we see what happens.
Mate, that sounds mega. I love the around the world trip thing. And goes back to your point of like 10 years ago you had this plan. And now it's coming up. So I love that. And then final one, big question. It's a traditional better man question. What is it that you need to work on now in order to become a better man?
Good question. I would say, if I'm honest, I've avoided the man in the mirror recently. So I think, and I actually, because no one was around this morning, because the girls had gone up to see family. Actually, the first time I looked in the mirror this morning, I was just brushing my teeth.
What did you find?
Just that I think I need to just allow myself to take a break.
Okay.
I haven't had a day off this year.
Have you not?
No.
Wow.
I've just been pursuit of, I don't know, it's a mission for me. And when you're on a mission and you're so passionate about your mission, it's very difficult to stop. And bar weekends, I have weekends, and there's a couple of weekends I work, but every single day I had no time off. I've been trying to probably be too perfect in the whole process thing. And I just think sometimes when you take a step back, you're actually taking 10 steps forward. So I think the reflection in the man in the mirror needs to be honest and go, just have a fucking week off and just take a bit. And we've done it this week. Bit of downtime. We've got the charity golf tomorrow. Nice journey to come up here and see you. Bit of time out of the office. New environment. And I think we need it.
You got the family with you today?
No. So it's just me. I don't see them till Sunday night. So, I'm going to enjoy the boy watching his tournament on Saturday. So just a little bit of me time. Turning like that off. And just disconnecting. I think more disconnect from the world is powerful.
Mate, I've had a blast.
It's good. I love this.
It's been amazing to,
love it.
Like I say, you're someone I've followed for years. So thank you for making the time.
Anytime.
And the effort. I learnt a lot. Love chatting to you.
I love this. Mate,
it was great.
Good man.
Thank you. That was awesome. Just got to check the fucking thing recorded now.
Oh my God.
I know, mate. I know.